Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Fae and Folklore. As some of you know, fairy tales are a type of subgenre of folklore, changed and altered through time, usually having an underlying moral or message. And yes, the older ones are a little bit dark, but I'll go into that another time. I personally love fairy tales and definitely have a few favorites, such as Beauty and the Beast. But before I go any further into that, I would like to introduce a very special guest to you, Laura McAsh. Laura is a talented writer and an old colleague and friend of mine from my days at the library. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me, Selena. I'm happy to be here.
It's great to have you here. So Laura has recently published a book called Alison's Adventures in Time. And there's a slight inspiration from Alice in Wonderland. Is that correct, Laura?
Yes, I would say it's mainly the characters that are loosely inspired by those in Lewis Carroll's original works.
Very good. Is there any other inspiration that influenced this book?
Ooh, that's very interesting. Yes, I mean, my life. Some people, if you know me like you do and read the story, a lot of people might make those connections and be like, hey, there's a lot of Laura in Alison, which is somewhat true, but we are not the same person. Alison's much braver than I. So I would say the biggest inspiration would be Alice's adventures in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. Mainly the characters through those, but also just my own personal struggle somewhat in that, that teenage to young adult, that tumultuous time in our lives, because I sort of think that if this was a book that I was able to read when I was Alison's age, that would have been transformative for me, kind of like a hug, so that's where that inspiration came from as well.
Nice, a little bibliotherapy for teens.
Yeah. Exactly.
Lovely. All right. Could you tell us a little bit more about the book and possibly read a little something for us?
Of course. So the book, in a nutshell, it's set in 2007 in Hampstead, which is a region of London in England. And it follows Alison Mayhew. She's a 17-year-old girl who is a big creative, and she's also big anxious, as in she has so much potential, but doesn't know what she wants to do with her life and is experiencing a lot of pressure in making big choices quickly, most of all from her sister. Her sister, Rachel, is a big influence on her. They're very close, but there's a bit of tension there. So Alison's just kind of, puttering through life, and then one day she discovers that she thinks people are following her, not in a paranoia way, but in that she's met multiple people that have these golden pocket watches, and she can just tell that there's something up. They're eccentric people that she's coming across, and she's like, there's no way that this isn't like a cult or something, that there's no way these people are not connected to each other. So then that ends up her curiosity associated with these timepieces and these weird people she's come across ends up leading her by accident over 200 years into the future. So she gets wrapped up in this organization called the Capella Institute for Archival Accuracy. And this institution, over 200 years in the future, uses time travel to successfully document historical events, really anything, to just basically make this massive archival compendium of information. But where things get a little bit scary is we discover that there is the current leader of the institute. She's a bit shady, and there is this secret plot, if you will, of people wanting to discover more about, okay, what exactly is this leader doing? We know she's doing some tyrannical stuff, but what exactly is she doing and why? We would like to build a case against her so we can hopefully remove her from her position of power. So Alison essentially agrees, hey, you know what? You're looking for somebody that meets the criteria to go into this leader's timeline and find out more of that information. I can volunteer to do that because she's driven by both personal and external reasons for wanting to do this, but she's like, hey, I kind of off the seat of her pants just says, sure, hey, you know what, this terrifies me, but I'll do it. So that is sort of the premise of the book in a nutshell, that some accidental things led by curiosity lead somebody into a situation even she, who's a very creative, dreamy person, would never have envisioned on her own, that this is truly like, okay, this is a whole new kettle of fish. So
Very
that is the
courageous.
yes, and with not spoiling what ends up happening, because it's yeah, that's just sort of like the first part, if you will, is, in a nutshell, is getting into the meat and potatoes is for those who do not want to be spoiled and want to read it themselves.
Very good. Yes, I'm a big fan of fantasy, and I also love
Mm-hmm.
science fiction, especially when they talk about time
Mm,
travel, because it can get so
yes.
complicated. It's
Oh,
really interesting.
timey-wimey.
So yeah, exactly. Timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey. There may
So
or
I
may
love
not be
that.
some, hints to Doctor Who along the way.
That's perfect. I love
So,
that both of those things are involved there. That's great.
yes.
Okay, Laura, how do you feel about reading us a little something?
I would love to. So I've just got the prologue here. It is about a page, and it follows one. It sort of sets the story, or sets, excuse me, the stage for the story, and it follows one of the characters in particular named Chester Caldero. CC for short. Nobody calls him that. But if you think of what character in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland has the names CC as their initials, would it happen to be a
And
mischievous cat with a wide grin? Maybe.
perfect.
You'll just have
Lovely.
to find out. Anyway, so this prologue is from Chester's perspective, and it gets in a little bit of a taste for the shenanigans that happen further on. So this is the prologue for Alison's Adventures in Time. Chester Caldero had encyclopedic access to the entire spectrum of human history, and he didn't know where to begin. That was because what he needed to know wasn't Shakespeare's favorite fruit or the names of every pet cat to ever roam the streets of ancient Egypt. Chester needed to locate someone he could trust with the execution of this mission. He searched for days, scrolling through endless files brought to him by complex algorithms. He surveyed all manner of people from all walks of life, hailing from every inch of the planet. He found a few people with potential, but further vetting exposed holes in their suitability. With the pile of unsuccessful candidates growing larger by the hour, Chester was moments away from conceding when a brilliant idea crossed his mind. Chester latched onto this wayward brainwave, exploring in his mind's eye the implications of the newfound avenue. The method was unorthodox and broke more regulations than he could count, but there was no denying that it was worth a try. Better yet, it just might work. By day's end, Chester leaned back in his chair, taking a moment to revel in his quiet genius. "It's time to let fate have a say in the matter," he said, a wide, satisfied smile sweeping across his face. And that is the prologue.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you.
So, if any of you listeners are interested in fantasy or science fiction, which I'm assuming you are, Laura, could you tell us where your book is available?
Yes. So it is currently available through Amazon, but if you can, it's also available to purchase through Barnes & Noble, as well as the publisher's website, which is Contrarian Publishing. There's a little frog, so if you see a frog, you're in the right place. And also, I believe my publisher is in the process of getting Contrarian's work set up through Indigo as well. So being a Canadian, a fellow Canadian, I'm very, very hopeful that we can get that rolling, because that's a very big publisher in Canada. Not publisher, pardon me, a very big chain of stores that are available to people across Canada. So it's very exciting stuff.
Wonderful. That's great, Laura. Thank you so much for joining me, and it's been
Thank you.
really nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us, listeners. And this has been another episode of Tales of Fae and Folklore.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.